Afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our soon coming to a close series on religious management administration. So let us all kneel for a word of prayer.
Dear Father in heaven, we thank you that you've called us to this meeting this afternoon. We ask that you will bless this meeting, that all of us will gain the things that we need. And we thank you for hearing, answering, and blessing for Christ's sake. Amen.
Will you?
That's a test.
Oh, thank you, Sister Anita. That was a very good lesson. Yes, because we all know sometimes we have to beat each other with our own sticks. Actually, I went like this, and I was looking at everybody else in the room. I thought you were doing a trial run. But anyway, so we learned that we need to speak up and speak audibly so everyone can hear, so we can all say a hearty amen. Yeah, nobody should have. Pardon me? Who did? She did. Yes. Well, brethren, so I want to make a disclaimer here for all the brethren who are out there looking in. This is not normally how we behave. Okay? So, but I guess it's sunshine today. It's nice and warm, isn't it? And I think everyone has caught on to that. When we all were having the other meeting, we were standing in the sun like this. It's so nice outside. So, brethren, we are getting a little bit about what you have naturally. We have just gotten a few days of it. So we are going to go on. Today is our second to last session, and I'm not saying that because I'm glad for it to come to an end, but deep down inside, I'm not grieving. And I know that there are other nice, interesting modules that are to come. And we have to move on. So today, we are going to do what we had agreed to do last week, in-house seminars, group and home meetings. Now, most of us, or the leaders, or those of you who are on the chat and here, know how to conduct in-house group and home meetings. This is something that most of us are acquainted with, correct? And if you are not and you are failing, then we have to do a little homework. There's that nice little manual that talks about, that was, I think it would have been in 20, Effective Sign and Crime. When did that come out? In 2018? 2018, because we got the draft copy. Brother Trevor brought it to Ghana with him when he did that training. And then after that, it was perfected. And I read that and I reread it. And it really gives you some wonderful points and tips how to do home evangelism, how to conduct yourself, taste and tact, how to behave when you want to share your message with others. And we all know by now that it's not just what we say, our influence, that we are actually living what we want to preach to others. They must see it in our day-to-day lives, so that people will not be listening to us and thinking, oh, yeah, yes, right. Because I know that there are situations where people have been told, and you call yourself a Christian. Has that ever happened to anyone here? We pray not, but it has happened. So let us be mindful of that. So go back to that book. I always recommend it to people, and I could not if I hadn't read it, and I've been trying to practice the principles that are laid out in that book. And I must say this, going out on Sabbaths to that church is a constant reminder of who we are and what we are to do and what we should not be doing. Sometimes we're full of zeal and we want to tell everybody everything, but that is not what we are called to do. We are called to what? To develop what? Trust, regard. We have to show them respect and regard likewise between each other, and let the relationships take a natural course of development. We cannot force anyone to trust us, all right? Much less to tell them about things that, one, they have an attitude towards already, or two, that will be like, what? You know, it's hard for them to grasp. So let them get to know you first. You take time to get to know them. Learn the dynamics of the church where you're going. Who are the Mr. and the Mrs. of the church? Because there are those who literally are the ones who control the church from behind the scenes. Yeah. Remember, their money talks. And then there are those who have long-standing members who only have to wink an eye or nod their head, and everybody else goes, okay, and they follow the leader. Learn the dynamics and the social status of the church that you're going to. It's very, very important. It's like you're going to a home too. Who makes the decisions in the home, the father or the mother? You see, you're going to. Yes, what? Yes, yes. Can we have a microphone for Sister Claudette, please? I will miss Sister Colette. Yes,
Okay. Suppose you go to a home and the woman is the one who rules the home.
exact. That's the point I was getting.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
Well, it's unique, but I learned that in sales. Find out who rules the roost. And then you know who to go talking to. Because if you think it's the man who holds the purse strings, you could be selling him that product from now until it goes dark, sunlight rising on you, and you're there. And he has no control over saying, yes, we are going to buy this product from you. So find out. Find out who is in charge of the home, who has the most influence. And it's not hard, you know. When you're trying to meet couples, try to meet both of them at the same time. It works better. You see? Yes, it does. And then you could qualify and disqualify, right? Good. So we have a lot of experience with that. So what we are having a needing to learn about is seminars. Yes, we've been having seminars for years, but we've been having different type of seminars in different regions for different reasons. And one of the most unique seminars that you can actually venture upon having is one in a facility that's already set up, per se a school, because you're going to find everything there that you need, you would think. So you think it's easy to go in and have a seminar. But let us look up into that a little bit today and see if we can improve or you can improve, and that it will be more efficient for us the next time we have a seminar in one of those facilities. Now, there's a process involved, and I'm a paper person. I like to plan things here, and I like to put things down on paper so that everyone with me will be going along on the same pace, so we wouldn't be running off in different directions. When people are running in different directions and feel they have the same goal in mind, it always is chaotic. It's time wasting, resources and money, manpower, strength, everything. So I have a couple things that we ought to consider. Now, directions. That notice will be sent from headquarters. So nobody else said decide they're going to have a seminar, right? We understand that. It's always planned at headquarters and notices are sent out, correct, sisters and brothers? Good. So it's sent out with the intention to host an annual seminar. And immediately there has to be planning on both sides. For headquarters to give the indication there's going to be a seminar in a country, in an area, wherever, most of the planning or the decision making would have already been done to a certain extent here, correct? So the planning would be more so for those who are on the ground now. We're supposed to have a seminar here at this facility. We can't just pick up people at the airport if they are coming and just say, okay, we're going to have one. There are some things that has to go into place. So we're going to look at some of those this afternoon. So have a meeting with all staff members and leaders, and that's very important. And why I added in leaders there is because from my experience, when we do things in areas, and I'm talking about in the schools, if they are left out, they do feel set aside as if they have little importance, when they do have a major role to play, especially when it comes to the members. So you have a meeting immediately with these members of staff, and that includes everyone and possibly your leaders. That is if it's been happening at a facility and headquarters say, organize it on the ground. We are coming so and so date and X, Y, and Z. If you are not supposed to do that, leave it up to headquarters, because we don't want to have one group of people saying one thing, another one saying something else. There's going to be confusion. So as I said in the beginning, the process is to get directions. You should get directions, proper directions. So the agenda should include the proposed date, and this is what you're discussing at the meeting. You're not going to have a meeting and say, hey, we're going to have a seminar again. Yeah! It has to be for a good reason. So you need to look at some facts. What is the proposed date for the seminar? The topics, if given by the organizers, which will be headquarters or dependent on who they gave the instructions to, as this may include local members, facility staff as presenters. So if for example, in one of the schools where it's going to be for days, and you need multiple presenters, of course, you need to have people involved and they must know their topics to prepare beforehand. It also talks about if proposed, stipulated, or stipulated by headquarters, then you have to discuss the menu, manpower on the ground. Who are the people who are going to help set up this seminar? That's very important. If you don't have personnel on the ground to help you from headquarters or where you are, it is going to be difficult. And communication is important, and I left out that part. It is important that if a seminar is going to be held in your area, in your facility, that you are communicating with someone directly at headquarters. Not anyone, but someone who is involved in the process of setting up or managing the seminar from headquarters, because you could be talking to the wrong person. You see? Very important. It goes on to say that you have to look at accommodations. And I put in accommodations because it's very important. A facility could only hold so many persons. In terms of their safety, in terms of hygiene, in terms of they being able to move around properly from place to place. It's a number of things that are involved. Also, I know for a fact Ghana, Zambia, and I believe South Africa, they have standards, how many persons they want you, just like in all countries, to fit in a particular place. And fire services always come in and do what they certify, the buildings and the accommodations in those facilities. So it's only so many persons can hold. And why it's important to know your accommodations, things get a little out of hand sometimes. And I'll give an example. Ghana, and Brother Baruch could bear witness to that. It always gets a little creative in Ghana. You could cater for 100 persons. And as I go on to the other points, I will show you how you know you're catering for 100. And then at the end of it, for registration, your numbers go up to 150, 170, 190, 200, 210. And the numbers, as the days go by, the numbers, yes, increase. Yes. And that is going to affect your budget, food, accommodations, not to mention stress on the staff. Because now you have more people to manage and you have limited resources. You see, it's really difficult. Yes, Sister Claudette.
Thank you. Just an update. When we started out with the regional meetings, wherever, it was usually headquarters would let them know. But now it is more, they let us know when they would like to have it. And also as it pertains, and I don't know if you are going to deal with that moving forward, we have had to more than once between last year, the year before, indicate who we want at that meetings. Because when those numbers soar, it was because the grandma, the auntie, the cousin, everybody's coming and they're not believers. You see, so up to last year, we had to stipulate, no, only believers, certain people from certain areas cannot, so it has been adjusted where they're the ones that let us know now most of the time. Yeah. So everything else applies except that part.
Now we are coming into that part because that's a very important part, Sister Claudette raised. Yes, Sister Colette.
I know in South Africa, we rented a camp, for lack of a better word. It was very nice. And they had buildings and everything. I'm just wondering, like in the foreign field, like in African countries, when you have so many people, here in the States, you can order porta potties. So how does that work over there?
I'm going to come down to that later on. It's very challenging because in countries like this, it comes like this. You order and it could come, right? In countries like that, you may not know where to access it. Two, depending on where the school is, it's going to take a while for them to say, yes, we will bring it, but you'll get it in 3 days. Or you'll get it at a time when you don't. It's a challenge. So we have porta potties in those places. It's called a fork, 2 strong men, and some board. They have to make temporary places for people to relieve themselves. Yes? Olivia is looking at me like she doesn't grasp what I'm saying. Yes. So we do have it. We do have it. But the point is, remember, let's go back to the lesson. It's not the most hygienic thing, and we're trying to avoid those things. We did it one year, and I tell you, it was really, um, yeah, that's a nice word, dicey. So let's go on. So accommodations, you have to consider your accommodations very carefully. Facility capacity in relation to the guests and training for helpers and volunteers. Going back to accommodations, you have to accommodate where the studies are going to be kept in relation to where people are going to sleep and store their belongings. It's unique. People are coming for a seminar for 2 or 3 days, 4 days. And the things that they bring with them, you think that they have left home, that they have migrated. It's a lot of stuff people walk with. People walk with mattresses, pillows, all kinds. I have seen some kind of stuff. I'm amazed. I remember one person saying to me, we had something in a facility and we have the pillows and we have everything. And this is a grown adult. And the person said, I do not go anywhere without my pillow. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, that's another thought. We will not go into it. So the capacity in relation to your guests, and you have to consider training for helpers and volunteers. Now, I put this in because it's very important. In some countries, you have a lot of volunteers. Brother Rowan knows what I'm talking about. Brother Barrow, Sister Patricia, number of people here. When the volunteers come, they would be much more than what you need. But because of the areas they're coming from, you have to find yourself housing them and feeding them. You see? And then you're overrun with volunteers that you cannot manage. It makes no sense. Think about the kitchen here for seminar. Think about how we have to manage and plan everything down to the minutest. It's the same standard we have to have in any area or country that we're having a seminar. So you must know who is on the ground, what they are doing, because you will have lots of little people running around the place, doing a whole bunch of stuff that they weren't instructed to do. And you as a manager will find yourself trying to keep up with all of these. And they mean well. They've come to help. You see? And I say help in inverted brackets, right? Yeah. Good. So let's go on now. So it's important that you train your helpers and volunteers. And at the schools, the helpers are the students, right? So they have to be trained in terms of how to usher people in, what to expect, that the young men don't take the women. We get some women to come and help, or we designate one person who will direct the women to their part of the camp. And as in those places, we have separate places for the men and women. They don't camp together. Unless we have couples with children, then we try to accommodate them as a family. All right? But it's unique. When we were being told, put the couples together, and we were trying to do that one year, I remember they saying, no, no, no. The men wanted to go with the men, and the women wanted to go with the women. And that made it so much easier for us, you see? But the only thing is, where there was a couple with 2 children, the children were like in between. And I remember at one point, a couple of the women complained, that child is too old to be in our room. And I was wondering, and one woman said, because he's always looking at me when I'm changing my clothes. So you could have those challenges too. So you may have to insist on putting, depending on the age of the children, that couple stay together. You see? The father wants the children to go with the mother. The child is too old in terms of being a boy to be in the room with the women, and vice versa. So you always making decisions as you go along. All right? Now, but the decision process will become easier as I get down into the rest of the study, how you'll be able to know who is who by pre-planning. So do a complete inventory for things like linen, mattresses, chairs, tables, kitchen utensils, service equipment, all kinds of waste, that's for them to eat from, and any other apparatus necessary for that specific period. Now, let's say in Trinidad or in Ghana, there are things, or South Africa, wherever, that are not being used all year, but are kept for seminar, like how we have stuff here that's not used all year. And we know we don't wait until a week before the seminar to go through the linen closet to pull out stuff and check pillows and all that. We always doing it in advance, correct? Same thing at any facility anywhere in the world. This must be done, because you'll find yourself being embarrassed when you pull out stuff that has an odor, that may have a stain or whatever, or may not just be good enough use to use again. So all these things you need to do an inventory on. If you have enough chairs, tables, whatever, so you're always prepared. Now it says many of these items may have to be washed or aired out. All right. I know Ghana now has sufficient tents. They no longer rent tents. I believe they have sufficient chairs because they were systematically buying chairs and things like that. But those who managing there would know better now. It says, this is very important, conduct sound checks for audio and visual equipment for repairs, replacement if needed, and replacement batteries. There's nothing, it sounds like a joke, but it's true. Then you see people always running and taking a microphone, changing batteries and running back again. Have your backup or have a good, make sure they have good batteries in them and they're working before the seminar starts. All right, 5, send in requested budget to headquarters, and this is in advance, for the express period for the gathering, only if it is left up to the local organizers. Now, headquarters may give you a budget and say, this is it. This is what you have to use. Tailor everything for that period for this amount of money. Could be Sister Claudette, somebody. You could say, depends on how many persons. Right. So they could send a budget and say, this is what we would like you to spend and try to stay within this budget. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Brother Trevor does not want us to cut back on the food, but in some cultures, they eat a lot of starch. So with one meeting quickly, they had 3 starches and it brought the budget up pretty high. Mm-hmm. So we had to tell them, you can have 2 starches. It's not necessary to have 3 starches along with other stuff which they had. Yeah. So they did, and it really reduced the amount of funds.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're coming into all of that as well. It says this must include the number of persons expected for the seminar, the cost of any rental of furniture and equipment, food, transportation costs, and setting up and the purchasing of goods, airport trips for any expected foreign workers, and accommodations if not at any one of our facilities, because you may not be able to accommodate the persons depending. So you have to factor that in because you may have to rent a place for the accommodations. That is if they don't do it directly from headquarters. But then again, I say communication is important. Everybody has to work as a team. It also must include printing costs for the program, literature, handouts, and registration sheets if these cannot be done in-house. So we try to cut the cost down by doing all of these things in-house. But the facility may not have a printer that can accommodate all those printing. So you may have to look for a cheap resource outside to get it done and factor that cost in. Where possible, number 6, meet with leaders to discuss the upcoming seminar and outline all expectations and limitations. And there's a reason why I put limitations there. After a registration 1 year in Ghana, and I'll come to the registration sheet, there's an easy way that they were able to compile the information right there on registration day. And when you looked at where the people came from, like there was one particular sheet had over, I don't know, probably about 40 persons from Accra. But when you look at the membership group, you may not have had 40 registered members. You see my point? So you see the group leaders, they invite auntie, uncle, whoever. And the thing is, it depends on the time of the seminar, because the seminar in Ghana is always at the end of the year. There's vacation. And we have a lot of children who come to seminar, a lot of youth that come to seminar. So you have to consider all of these things. So it goes on to say you have to look at your limitations. So when you're talking with the leaders, you have to educate them. The purpose for the seminar, the goals of the seminar, what you want to accomplish, and who are the persons you want to come and benefit by the seminar. If they're going to be inviting people who are not going to benefit or have no need for that, other than to come out to a nice country area where there's everything available and eat 3 square meals for 5 days, you have to be careful and you have to begin to trim your list. And they have to be honest and realistic. You see? So written notices should be sent out to the leaders of the area with the accompanying application form only when it cannot be done in person. So if you cannot, like a place like Ghana where everybody's so far apart, you may have to write them and send it by pigeon, right? No, I'm kidding. You send it by, they have their regular meetings. They have their, I'm trying to wake up people who seeming to, I'm losing, to see if you're following. So they have this is important to get to know what's happening in an area. They have what you call regular meetings, twice a month or once a month. They have their regular area meetings, and then they have their group meetings where everybody comes together like in one area. That's the best time to catch all the leaders. So send information out at that time. You see? Okay. So let's go forward. So there I have, this is something we utilize in Ghana for the same reason of having an excessive amount of people and don't know who to cater for. So here's what the effort that was made. This will be sent out prior, like 2 months before the seminar. And what the leaders will do is to collect those from members who are interested in coming to the seminar. And it gives you some basic information. So we'll have an idea who is coming. At the last meeting of the month prior, let's say at least 2 weeks before the seminar, this would come in. So at least the staff, they will have an idea how many men, how many women, how many children, and their age groups. So they will know how to organize the sleeping accommodations. So you don't have to use it, but it's an idea that you can try where you will have an overrun of people. You see? And this helps. And at the bottom, I'd put in there, now here's another thing. Where it says under spouse, as you come down, it says, please write B for boys or G for girls. And you would think, but why? We would know what's a boy name and a girl name, right? Exactly, not anymore. And in countries where you don't understand the language, you don't know what's a male or a female name. So you must be able to distinguish what it is. So B for boy, that's for children under 16. Then, you see, we have the group leader's name. They have to put in a group leader's name. So if the group leader is saying, but I don't know this person. You see? So everything in here is capturing information to help safeguard what you're going to be doing on that day and whom you're going to be doing it to. At the end of it, it also has parents. There's a note there, and there's a reason why that note is there. Because it's at the end of the year and children are on school vacation. I remember one year we had so many teenagers just running. It was crazy to be able to manage them because the programs that were set up for the children, we didn't know that there were going to be so many teenagers. So we had programs for the children for under the age of 16. And then we had all of these older young people. So we put in this here that please note that it is your responsibility to supervise your children at all times before, during, and after the seminar period when they are at the facility.
Sounds good on paper.
It does. But at the beginning of the seminar, the first day when you have registration evening for worship, you go through these things with them. And you let them know because on those facilities, you have snakes, you have tree stumps, you have areas that they can wander to where there are scorpions. They have so many hazards. So you want to encourage your parents in a nice way. Please manage your children very carefully. But then again, you remember, they could be accustomed to those conditions. But at the same time, you really want to press on them that it's important that we will not take responsibility if somebody becomes damaged. You see? It also says here that these times include the bathroom. I know it sounds like we're nitpicking here, but this is important. The bathroom, when they're going to their showers, at mealtime, and in evenings before bedtime. So the seminar finishes, let's say by 7, and lights out at 9. What happens in those 2 hours? I remember going around with a flashlight, looking for the young men and the young ladies, and saying, you go that way, you go that way. You see? And the designated staff will only supervise the children during planned programs according to their age group, after which they will be brought back to you. Please look at your program for these specified times and all of these things you go through with them. Now, it seems as if there's a lot of planning here, but it's necessary if you want to control a huge crowd. And then with your staff, as you're planning with your staff, everybody will take responsibility for different areas. So like I remember the school one year, the students took turns at making sure the bathrooms were kept with tissue and soap and water. There were those who were in charge of helping take turns to go around with flashlights in the night to make sure that people were in their right quarters. And then you had those who were catching children during the day and taking them back to their parents. And it could be very, very tiring in the boiling sun. It's hard. You are running with going backward and forward. So these things are important. And then you make little announcements throughout the seminar. Ask people to cooperate with you. Remember, we're training up to be these people who are supposed to be wondered at. So by your continually reminding them, hopefully it will hit home. Unless you take a child and you keep that child with you all the time, which I did one time. He was really sweet. I couldn't help it. But anyway, it says shop. His mother was not there. Yeah. It says tips. So I'm giving some tips here. It may or may not apply, but it may help. Shop from the facility farm for items that are readily available. In other words, use the stuff that are available from the school farms or the facilities where things are being planted. That's your first place to gather the raw material for your menu. Seasonal crops should be planted to accommodate annual gatherings, and I know they do that in Ghana. They're always planting, thinking what they could have for the menu for Ghana, if they have provisions, if they have this, that, and they store and they keep extra. So do that. It says, build the menu around the farm produce. And Claudette brought a very good point. Look at how many starches. So you want to have a proper, nutritious menu and cut back on your starches. Use what you have there. Now, in a lot of African countries, there's a time when peas and rice becomes very expensive, and most of the time it's at the end of the year. So what you can do, you know you're going to have peas and rice on your menu. It does not go bad if you buy the wild rice, that's the local rice, and if you also buy the local, you buy the peas. They plant a lot of peas, or beans, sorry, and it's dried. So you store it in containers or in the bags with bay leaf, whatever would be insect natural repellent. So you have it in time for seminar. If you wait, I think at the end of October, November, the prices triple, quadruple. Yes. So it's a good thing to keep in mind. It goes on to say, buy local for supplies and services as needed. Don't go to the town way over to rent chairs or tents. Have a relationship, to develop a relationship with people within the area, and they're happy to. As a matter of fact, it's unique. The chairs or the tents and the mattresses for the seminars in Ghana come from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Yeah. So we do business with them. Yeah. So you think about that. 4, accept volunteers that will not become burdensome, and also limit the amount in relation to your immediate needs. Not everybody who wants to volunteer, you should say, yes, please come. Remember, I said before, you have to look at accommodations for them, meals for them, everything. And sometimes a volunteer doesn't say up front, but when it's time to go home, you see them lingering. And by the look on their face and their body language, you know that you have to finance their transport back home. Now, is it an unfair thing to do? Do you think it's reasonable? Exactly. You need to know these things up front. That's why you have to control your volunteers, because that may not have been factored in your budget. So when the seminar is done and you think all your bills are paid and everything, you have a couple of people looking at you, or somebody comes to you with a sad story and said, you know, brother so-and-so came and he worked so hard and he wants to go back home. And you say, well, all right. And then you say, but it's not him alone, it's he, his wife, and his 4 children. So, you know, and then you didn't know, because you don't know who is who. You didn't know the wife and the 4 children was part of his family. You thought he was solo. And things like that do happen. So you have to remember these things, brethren. So let me read again. Accept volunteers that will not become, you see Brother Burrow nodding his head like that. He's been a victim. He's been victimized. So do not commit to financial support for the transportation of members to and from seminars. Now, this is very important, because a lot of people want to come to seminar, but they expect headquarters to cover the transportation to and from. You see? Now, if headquarters has agreed to do it, fine. That's why communication is important. But if you are planning on site and you're communicating with headquarters, if this comes up, you need to let them know. Well, the members are requiring or need or whatever transportation, so you will be able to factor it in or have a dialogue and work it out, please. It's important. Don't say no, don't say yes. Talk with HQ and find out what's going on.
And that's the norm. We usually pay for the transportation for the folks on a whole. That's what we usually do.
Now, let me throw in a little thing there. If you have a maxi load of people, and I know in Ghana, they come by, it's amazing. You see all these buses pulling up. And sometimes you recognize 2 persons on the bus or 3 persons, and you've paid for the entire bus. And Claude is saying, yes, we do. But 3 out of the 15 persons on the bus are only dividends. The rest are, well, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Right. Right. So that is where we have to be careful as to how we manage the transportation costs. So if we were to use a registration system, or we communicating with the leaders, how many persons come in, you know, that is what you're allowing. Just bring 15 persons from Kumasi, 10 persons from here, 5 persons from there, at so and so cost. You see? Not a maxi load from an area or 10 maxi loads. All right, be careful. Yes, Sister Danita, microphone, and then Brother Ruben. Microphone to Sister Danita, and then to Brother Ruben. Sister Claudette, were you talking on the mic just now? No? Okay, okay. Okay, could we pass another one, Sister Danita? That one is dead. Okay. Wow, I'm in trouble. I'm only gotten to 6 slides, 6 of 200 or 47.
I was just wondering, from what you were just saying, that, you know, what Sister Claudette had said about we pay for the transportation, and then you say the bus pulls up with 20 people and we know 3 of them. What do we do with the other 17?
They're already there. That's the whole point.
Right. So
no, no, hold on. Let me clear this up. This is not in a controlled scenario like in most countries. This is in some countries. And I use Ghana as an example, where we have tried and something has to be done where that happens. So this is in specific places. This is not the norm. Okay. This is in some places, but at the same time, it does impact on the resources in that area. It does in a tremendous way. It does not in a small way, tremendously. Yes, Brother Rowan had his hand up.
Yes, ma'am. What qualifies one to be chosen? Because is it a certificate or people going to the study or what?
Well, you remember there are standards by which we can identify those consistent members, and the leaders are key in that. And then headquarters has their standards that they always putting out. So when seminars are advertised, there's a standard that comes from headquarters or requirements, and the leaders are key in ensuring that these standards are followed through. Right. Yeah. So I hope that answers your questions.
I just asked.
Yes. All right. Now it goes on to say that work with the approved budget, brethren. Let us not become overzealous and do things that are going to cause us problems. So work with the approved budget. Do not commit to financials. I did that already, sorry. 7, plan that the registration for the attendees will be included within the planned seminar days. We made that mistake 1 year, and people came in the day before, and then we didn't budget to feed all those people before the seminar began. So make sure it's within your plan that you're going to be feeding X amount of people, and start your seminar quickly, immediately. It says, yes, brother. Microphone.
With the recent experience in Ghana, this is very interesting though.
You remember the year we were there too?
Yeah, but no, the one that we just had in December. This is very interesting. While I was looking at their budget, there is this budget that we approved for around 100 people.
Persons. How many came?
205.
Perfect example.
But there is another interesting thought. There is this budget that I do not know where it came from. It was approved, not unknown to my knowledge, and I'm still investigating. So things gone wrong. There is this 1,000 USD budget for 100 to 150 persons, and beyond, when they requested it, it's 3,000 USD when they requested it.
They're confused with the currency exchange rate.
I don't know. So that's what happened, ma'am. So but there is this budget that I noticed that is approved, but there is this additional budget that I do not know where it came from.
All right.
So see, things gone wrong. So I'm still investigating how it happened.
All right. So we will move on. Look at my time is already gone. So it says, so these things do happen. So So the two persons, whoever, whatever, you all can investigate, evaluate, and see what happens. Because if we continue to do things like this, the message that we are giving to the brethren there, continue to do as you choose to do. We say we are catering for 100. We tell the leaders, 8 from here, 10 from there, so on. We have accommodations. We have 100 mattresses. We have 100 chairs. We have food, X, Y, and Z. We have water. These facilities do not have pipe-borne water. It's from wells. It's from tanks. It's from underground systems. So when you run out of that water, trust me, people are left up there wondering how, if they're going to have a bath, and you have 200 persons to bathe. So, Brother Gene. So, brethren, we have to lock this down somehow. Yes.
So explain what happened here now. They asked for more money that they needed or what?
He said money silently appeared and was proved to cater for all those persons. Maybe that's what he said. And keep it, yes.
Okay, remember we limit the persons, right?
Yes.
The problem with us now behind, because we are not on the ground, right? We are not here, right? So since we are not on the ground, people was like, okay, I asked to this brother, for example, they asked to me. So I said, this is our budget. This is just for these people. And who can come? This, and this. Suddenly, in the budget, what happened? Where did it? And it came. It's not from here, though. Yes, who authorized it? I don't know. So we will know it by God's grace.
Let me say one word.
All right. So here's what here's what we are getting into an area here that we could leave alone for another time. I think this should be settled. But the borough, let's work on that.
Just one word.
If it's not to defend, one word, go ahead.
Nothing.
Or to explain.
I think now we are learning how to do things.
Keep the microphone by your mouth.
We are learning how to do things, how to plan things more clinical, better. This is what we are learning. This is why we are here now. When you have a director school and you have a director and you are planning something in the premises, in the school, you need to talk to the director to plan with him. Now, if you call an outsider to plan something in the school, this is the result.
All right, so here's what I will say. 2 points I raised earlier. Communication and know who you are communicating with. It makes no sense communicating with the person who does not have the authority to make the decisions, whether they're at headquarters here or they are out there. That is key, and I made those 2 points earlier. Secondly, I want to say this. We should not be reinventing the wheel. Seminars have been happening before I came into the organization, and I saw things set up wonderfully, and I liked it. The only difference is that there's a little difference with having these regional seminars in these facilities where we have much more persons. But from the inception, things were put in place to manage these seminars. So what I want to add to that for us, brethren, and this is for you out there and for us here, let us look at the mistakes we made in the past and not keep repeating them. Okay, and that is very, very important. We cannot keep repeating these things because some of these places have been doing these things over and over and it's becoming a habit and norm. And are we to continue to accept that? No, we are not. Sister Shaniqua, I have to move on. I have 5 minutes and some very important things I haven't covered. So could you hold, please? This is what we used and have been using. I don't know if it was used this last seminar. This is where when people come to register, they come with the original form, or if not, they put their name, so you capture information for headquarters. It says the name of the person, their sex, their telephone number, right? The group or the place that they have come from, so you will have an idea how many people came from Accra. Then you will also know these are their present telephone numbers because these things change regularly. And then you have the date. I think that's date of birth. I must have left out no age. And I think that's the date of the seminar. Right, good. And then you have, for that year, there was COVID. So we were doing temperature checks when they came in and at different times. So they had other columns with different times of temperature checks. These things are good to capture because you could send it back to headquarters and headquarters could look at it and be able to better manage next time, or help clean up their listing. Oh, we didn't have a number for this person. We didn't know that person was a female. Membership is always asking sometimes. We have fellowship applications here, but we don't know if it's a man or a woman. It's unique. Or the name does not justify, you're trying to figure it out, what area or country they're from, because they do leave out some information sometimes. So this really helps. And I'm closing off by this. We have been through 9 weeks. This will close off being 9 weeks of these classes on this topic. And I added this in to show us how important it is. And with regards to our perspective and what we have learned and how we are going to move forward, because this is a turning point for all of us. Do we agree? These classes are a pivotal turning point in each and every one of our lives. For those of us who are sitting here and for those of you who have been tuning in. And I brought this just to give us a little reminder again. Sometimes we need to have things driven home to us over and over. Elijah was given a double portion of the Spirit of God for burning all the bridges behind him in his stepping into the prophetic office to which he was called. Now, that was a prophetic office to which he was called. But we also know that we've all been called into an office in one way or the other. Whether we are teachers, whether we are administrators, whether we are in accounting, whether we are managing outside with the vehicles, whatever capacity we are working in, we've been called to an office. God has called us. We didn't choose ourselves. Okay, many of us can give testimonies how we, and I don't want to use the word ended up here. It's not like somebody threw you off on the highway who was giving you a ride to another state and then you end up walking and you happen to be here. But you could testify by your life how your journey brought you here to this place, correct? So we've all been called. And yes, it was made possible for him to go back to farming. So he didn't give up what? What didn't he give up? Because it was profitable for him at the time, meaning he sold all and he consecrated himself, but he held on to what? He was able to continue with his farming until the time came for him to let go of it. This is, Olivia is squinting and looking at me. This is what's written. Made it impossible for him to go back to farming because he gave up everything, but his skills remained with him. For example, Leslie Denita worked in a legal sphere for quite a bit of her career. That is beneficial now because she has that mind to think things through. Colette worked in she's given me so many different jobs. I'm trying to pinpoint one. But the point is, those skills that she gained was able to bless her in her ministry, you see? And so on. So it made it impossible for him to go back to farming, but he didn't give up on those skills. And I'm sure in some sphere, like we could teach what we have learned prior, right? Moreover, he faithfully ministered to Elijah night and day. And we are called to minister to those we are being given responsibility for. Sometimes we don't want to answer the phone. Sometimes we go, oh gosh, that person again, or whatever. But that doesn't happen to us here. We are always on the clock, right? And we still get 8 hours of sleep, good quality sleep. Amen. And 9 hours of sleep, right? So remember, brethren, that we have a goal. We have to keep it in the forefront of our mind. What do I want to accomplish? I was called for a purpose and a reason. And we have made a commitment, and it's something, it's an act. It is not a word. So by our daily lives, our commitment will be a witness before us to others. You ever heard somebody say your reputation precedes you? Yes, let our reputation precede us so that when we go anywhere, the expectation will not be unrealistic. It will be a realistic expectation, and then you will deliver. You see? You will deliver because as said in the beginning, the expectation of headquarters workers or anybody connected with Bashan in the work, the expectation of the standard is very high. So let us keep that in mind. Let us not disappoint. And I'm closing today on this. In all their journeyings, and I like system and order, in all their journeyings, and I know everybody here in this room likes that too. In all their journeyings, they were required to observe perfect order. Perfect order, not partially, perfect. Every tribe bore a standard with a sign of their father's house upon it. And under that particular standard, they were required to pitch their tent. So they had specific instructions, correct? Whenever the ark moved, the entire camp, not some, the entire camp journeyed. So when instructions are given from the pulpit in writing, orally, newsletters, however, through studies, it means that every one of us who are saying that we prescribe to the agenda and the credenda of the association supposed to be following these instructions implicitly. And may we say on pain of death? It goes on to say the different tribes marching in order under their own standard. Just in front of the ark marched Moses and Aaron. And who did Moses and Aaron represent at that time? The leaders who God had appointed, right? And near to them came the sons of Aaron, each bearing a trumpet. Through these, they were to signify to the people the directions which they received from Moses. And we read inspiration say that we must be able to give the trumpet a certain sound, right? Our message must come from lives that are being purified and sanctified by the truths that we are saying to people. So when we open our mouths, people will be willing to listen and agree with us because they're seeing it lived out in our lives. It goes on to say special instruction was given to the people so that they understood the sounds of the trumpets and directed their movements accordingly. So these classes are what? Instructions being given to us so that we could be, our movements are being directed accordingly. No one is running here and running there. We're all sitting here, and those who are tuning in are hearing the same instructions, the same counsels, the same encouragement. So we are becoming tighter as a band because we're moving as a team. When we hear the song to march, we know how to march. Amen? So, brethren, I hope that helps you. And I forgot this one. And I'm reminding us again because I asked last week and I stood here thinking, did I ask the question the wrong way? People were talking about the different things that about the quality of the class. And I was asking about your perspective. It's a particular attitude towards a way of regarding something, a point of view, a way of thinking about and understanding something. So keep it in mind, yes. Sister Shaniqua, and I'll take your comment last. The lamps of fire, and this is was a perspective and is a perspective changer for me. I was reading over Brother Jean's lesson to give his thing, and this came up. Yes, and I came up with this. The lamps, I'm not going to read it so you can read it, but this was one of my perspective changes, and this is the point I'm making. Something will cause you to change your perspective. Sister Shaniqua, I'll take your comment, and we're closing off there.
I was just thinking that, what generally happens if year after year you have the same overflow, maybe you would consider having the leaders have to share part of the burden if they have more than X, and they present that very early. You said you had about 2 months, so they present that early and they would have to pay for the extra people.
Well, what I would say, that sounds very good in word, but it's not the reality of what happens. Yes. All right. So, brethren, the afternoon class, the next class has been postponed. So that's why I stole a few more minutes. So whoever is next in line, could we please pray?
Oh, Father, we thank you again for these classes, as was announced that these are classes that has special instructions in it. And we have to be alert to receive those instructions, knowing that it is for our own good and to direct us in an orderly way that we will be unified with one voice. And we know that unity brings strength. And at this time, we need every strength to take the next step forward. We know that we are going forward. There's no backward in this movement. Again, we are very thankful for the availability of technology that not only we here on the hill is exposed to this message of special instruction, but even those who are in the wider field. And we give thanks and may we take it to heart. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.